In the spring of 1989, a country doctor in Lancaster County, Pennsylvania, made a quiet note in his patient log. Across 43 years of practice, he had delivered babies and stitched wounds in roughly 600 Amish households. He had never written a single prescription for an antihistamine. Not one. The English families across the same valley filled those prescriptions by the bagful. That note is sitting in a county archive right now, and the reason behind it is sitting in a kitchen garden you could plant this weekend. Because what the country doctor was watching was not luck. It was a green pharmacy. 10 plants, repeated across hundreds of Amish farmhouses, from Lancaster to Holmes County to Elkhart, treating conditions that modern medicine still struggles to resolve. Not folklore, not superstition. A documented working pharmacy, hiding in plain sight behind a white picket fence. By the end of this investigation, you will know each of the 10 by name. You will know what they treat. And you will understand why the medical establishment has spent a century pretending they do not exist. Decades of Johns Hopkins research on Amish populations has documented something the rest of American medicine cannot quite explain. Asthma rates in Amish children sit at roughly a quarter of the national average. Allergy rates lower still. Autoimmune disease, depression, certain cancers, measurably below the surrounding English counties. Researchers have called it the Amish Farm Effect, and most have credited the barn dust, the raw milk, the early exposure to animals. But that explanation is incomplete, because the same anomaly shows up in elderly Amish women who have not set foot in a barn in 30 years. It shows up in widows living alone in tidy dotty houses behind their grandsons' farms. The barn cannot account for them. Something else is at work. That something else grows between the rows of the kitchen garden. Every traditional Amish farm has one. Penn State Extension surveys of plain community gardens have cataloged the same plants appearing again and again, in the same configurations, in homesteads separated by hundreds of miles. These are not random ornamental choices. This is a curriculum passed grandmother to granddaughter for nearly 3 centuries, beginning when the first Amish families arrived in Pennsylvania in 1737. And the curriculum has 10 core entries. The first is plantain, not the banana. The broadleaf weed that grows in cracked sidewalks and along every Lancaster County lane. The Amish call it by its Pennsylvania Dutch name, and they call it the Band-Aid plant, because a chewed leaf pressed onto a bee sting will draw the venom out within minutes. They use it for spider bites, splinters that refuse to surface, and the slow-healing leg ulcers that plague diabetic English neighbors. The active compound, allantoin, is the same compound pharmaceutical companies synthesize for expensive wound creams. It grows free in the cracks of your driveway. The second is yarrow, white flat-topped flowers, feathery leaves. An Amish midwife in Goga County keeps dried yarrow in her birthing kit because it stops postpartum bleeding faster than the synthetic compounds in a hospital crash cart. Civil War surgeons used it on the battlefield. Modern emergency medicine forgot it. The Amish never did. The third is comfrey, the bone knitter. Pennsylvania Dutch farmers have used comfrey poultices on cracked ribs, sprained ankles, and slow-healing fractures for 200 years. The plant contains allantoin in concentrations no commercial product matches, plus rosmarinic acid, a documented anti-inflammatory. An Amish carpenter who falls from a barn roof in November is back at work in 3 weeks. His English counterpart, with insurance and an orthopedic surgeon, takes 8. The fourth plant is the one that begins to make the country doctor's note from 1989 make sense. Stinging nettle. Modern allergy medicine treats hay fever by suppressing the histamine response. The pills work for 6 hours and leave you foggy. Amish grandmothers in Lancaster County brew dried nettle into tea every spring before pollen season begins. They drink it daily. The plant contains natural antihistamine compounds that retrain the immune system rather than suppress it. A study of nettle extract published in the early 2000s confirmed measurable reduction in allergy symptoms in human subjects. Pharmaceutical interest evaporated almost immediately. You cannot patent a weed. The fifth is mullein. Tall, soft, silver-leafed, growing along every Amish fence line. Mullein is the lung plant. Smoked, steeped, or rendered into a syrup with honey, it has been the Pennsylvania Dutch answer to bronchitis, whooping cough, and persistent winter chest congestion since the 18th century. A Holmes County herbalist's recipe book, handed down through 4 generations of the same family, opens with mullein syrup as the first entry. Modern research on mullein has confirmed the plant contains saponins that thin mucus and verbascoside, a documented antibacterial. The doctor in 1989 knew about mullein. He wrote in his log that the Amish children he treated for respiratory infections recovered, on average, in roughly half the time of the English children in the same valley. He could not publish that observation. No journal would print it. The sixth plant is calendula, the orange flower in every Amish kitchen garden. Petals dried and steeped in lard or olive oil, then strained into salve jars. Pennsylvania Dutch families have applied calendula salve to diaper rash, cracked hands, kitchen burns, and surgical incisions for generations. Modern wound care research has found that calendula extract accelerates the formation of new tissue. A pharmaceutical version exists. It costs $40 an ounce. The Amish version costs roughly the price of a packet of seeds. The seventh is elderberry. Glossy purple-black berries, harvested in late August from the woody shrubs that line every Plain community lane. An Amish grandmother in Lancaster County does not buy flu shots. She does not buy cough syrup. She makes elderberry syrup in September and serves a tablespoon to every grandchild every morning from October through April. Multiple peer-reviewed studies have now confirmed what those grandmothers knew. Elderberry compounds inhibit influenza viral replication. They reduce flu duration. They were too cheap and too widely available for any drug company to commercialize. So the knowledge stayed in the Amish kitchen. This is the point at which the pattern becomes impossible to ignore. Each of these plants was once standard knowledge in American homes. Your great-grandmother almost certainly grew at least 3 of them. The break came in a specific window, between roughly 1910 and 1955, when American medicine professionalized, when the pharmaceutical industry consolidated, and when the American Medical Association began a deliberate campaign to discredit traditional plant medicine as quackery. Herbalists were prosecuted. Midwives were licensed out of practice. Medical schools that taught botanical medicine were defunded by the Flexner Report of 1910 and shut down within a decade. The plants did not disappear. The knowledge of them did. Except in the communities that did not read the AMA bulletins, did not subscribe to Reader's Digest, did not watch the television advertisements for new patented compounds, the Amish kept teaching their daughters. For 100 years, they were the only ones still teaching. The 8th plant is chamomile. The Amish use chamomile for colicky babies, anxious children, and the sleeplessness of grieving widows. It contains apigenin, a compound that binds to the same brain receptors as prescription anti-anxiety medication, with no dependency profile. A cup before bed. That is the entire prescription. The 9th is sage, not the cooking herb on the spice rack. Fresh sage, picked from the kitchen garden, steeped strong, and used as a gargle for sore throats and a tea for menopausal hot flashes. Lancaster County midwives have used sage for women's transitions for 200 years. Recent research on sage extract has found measurable reduction in hot flash frequency. The Amish women in their 50s are not buying hormone replacement therapy. They are walking outside, picking sage leaves, and pouring boiling water over them. And the 10th is the one that ties the entire investigation together. Lemon balm. A specific Amish settlement in northern Lancaster County has been documented by researchers studying plain community psychology to have rates of clinical depression and anxiety disorders far below the surrounding English population. Multiple factors contribute: the close family structure, the absence of social media, the rhythm of physical labor. But interviews with midwives in that settlement keep returning to the same plant. Lemon balm served as evening tea to women after childbirth, to children with night terrors, to elderly men struggling with the long Pennsylvania winter. The plant contains rosmarinic acid in concentrations that researchers have measured to produce calming effects on the nervous system. The country doctor in 1989 did not know about every one of these 10 plants, but he knew enough. He had watched, for 43 years, an entire population around him quietly self-treating with the contents of their own kitchen gardens. And he had watched them stay healthier than his English patients on every measurable axis. You can do this. This week, with a trip to a garden center, a packet of seeds, or in many cases, a careful walk through your own backyard. Plantain is almost certainly already growing in your lawn. Identify it. The next time someone in your house gets a bug bite, chew a clean leaf and press it on. Watch what happens. Order dried nettle from any reputable herb supplier. Begin drinking 1 cup of nettle tea per day, 4 weeks before your usual allergy season starts. Continue through the season. Buy elderberry syrup at any health food store, or order dried elderberries and make your own with honey. 1 tablespoon per adult, 1 teaspoon per child, every morning of the cold and flu season. Plant calendula seeds in any sunny patch of dirt. They grow themselves. Harvest the orange flowers. Dry them. Steep them in olive oil for 2 weeks. Strain. And you have a salve that costs almost nothing and outperforms most pharmacy creams. Grow chamomile and lemon balm in pots on a windowsill if you have no garden. A cup of either steeped fresh every evening before bed. Plant a sagebush by your back door. It will live for 10 years. Plant mullein in any neglected corner. It will reseed itself forever. These are not radical acts. They are the acts your great-grandmother performed without thinking. The Amish never stopped. You can start again. There is one final piece of this case that has not yet been laid on the table. In the recovered notebooks of Pennsylvania Dutch herbal practice, the handwritten brochuri manuals passed down through plain community families since the 1700s, the 10 plants are not listed as 10 separate remedies. They are listed together as a single garden. The Amish grandmother does not choose between them. She grows all of them, every year, in the same plot, because the working assumption of 3 centuries of Pennsylvania Dutch practice is that a household with these 10 plants present does not need a doctor for 90% of what ails it. That is the secret the country doctor stumbled into in 1989. Not one miracle plant, a garden, a complete, deliberate, generationally tested green pharmacy, sitting 6 steps from the kitchen door of every traditional Amish home in America. What was lost in the rest of America was not the plants. The plants are still here. What was lost was the knowledge that they belong together, in one garden, tended by one woman, in one family, across one lifetime. That knowledge can come home. Tell us in the comments which of these 10 plants your own grandmother grew, and what she used it for. Name the state. Name the plant. Those memories are evidence too, and this archive is built from them. Subscribe and stay with the investigation. The next case files a recovered Lancaster County midwife's journal from 1904 and the single fermented food entry that appears on nearly every page.